Morning.
Morning.
It is good to see you this morning. I know we have some families who are out traveling for spring break. We have some family and friends and visitors with us this morning. We are honored to have you all. We hope that you come to know the love of God a little better through your time with us. We like to say that we're not a country club of perfect people, but a hospital for broken sinners here at the Centerville Church of Christ. And I'd like to think most people will fit that category. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. We'll see if this works. But, a couple years ago, Sean introduced me to a new version of the Bible I'd never heard of before. All right, you know a lot of the translations and people kind of have their favorites. This was published in 1631, and only 3 copies still remain today because they've all been destroyed. It was referred to as the Wicked Bible. They did not want them to last, but there are still a few in museums. You see, the Wicked Bible wasn't this awful translation that had a lot of wrong things or were really trying to twist the words of the Bible. They just forgot one word. One 3-little word has brought about all this reputation for this one published Bible. That word was the word not. And it came in the sentence, "Thou shalt commit adultery." You can understand why it was a big problem. Really popular with the townsfolk, but not exactly what the church was wanting to put out. Words matter. Yeah, can you go ahead and toss that for me? Words matter. Even small ones can make a world of difference.
Amen.
The words we use, the words we hear, they can shape the world around us. Our lives are shaped by words. Good words like the I do's, and more harmful words like I see you more as a friend. Okay? There are good ones and there are bad ones. The yeses and the nos, the congratulations to the I'm sorry's. They shape our lives. Maybe the biggest evidence of this is not found in the weight of the words that are spoken to us or around us, but the weight of the words that are left unspoken. I have talked to too many people who in their lives were shaped by unspoken words. Words like, I love you, and I'm proud of you, and you matter, that were never spoken to them. And those unspoken words also changed their lives and shaped the path they went down. If that's what unspoken words can do, we have to take very seriously the weight of the words we speak and how they can really determine a life in the world around us. And so that's actually the topic that our teenagers have requested for the second sermon in the book of James. James has a lot to say about how we use our speech and the power of our little tongue and our mouth. And these teens, they grow up in a world where they are blasted with more words than any generation has seen before. They get more words for more places than anybody has ever experienced in the past history of our world. And so they want to know what God's wisdom has to say about the words we use, right? And that's what we're going to look at today. This is James chapter 3. We're going to look at a couple different passages from this chapter. Would you go ahead and flip that for us? James 3, 9 through 12. With the tongue we praise our Lord and Father, and with it we curse human beings who have been made in God's likeness. Out of the same mouth come praise and cursing. My brothers and sisters, this should not be. Can both fresh water and salt water flow from the same spring? My brothers and sisters, can a fig tree bear olives or a grapevine bear figs? Neither can a salt spring produce fresh water. If you're into nature shows, you'll generally see them talk about how animals might have a variety of sounds that they use for a variety of things, but it's never a whole lot. There's usually a sound for I'm hungry. There's a sound for I feel threatened. Here in a couple weeks, hopefully you'll find me out in the woods with a block of wood and a piece of chalk, trying my best to sound like a hen turkey, say I'm looking for love. And if I can get that just right, maybe I'll hear a little gobble gobble come back from me, right? There's just a handful of sounds that these animals can make that bring about a small range of communication that they can share with each other. And there are other animals that do more, like we talk about dogs, we talk about dolphins as a popular one. But humans and our ability to communicate with each other is something unrivaled in this universe. God has given us a very special ability to share. In fact, the very structure of our vocal systems is If it wasn't designed by God, I'd call it a miracle, right? Flip this over for me. This is a loop, video of a loop of an MRI of somebody speaking, and we'll change it because it might gross you out because it is kind of weird. But just a couple of things here, like just notice two things. One, you never realized your tongue was that big, did you? Right? Secondly, just look at the complexity that's had here, from the vocal cords, which are kind of hard to see up here on the bottom, to whatever that is at the top, kind of separates your nasal cavity to your mouth, the lips, the tongue, all of it. It's just this extremely complex system that makes up our ability to speak. Bats have echolocation, and we think it's incredible. Chameleons can change the color of their skin, and we think it's incredible. Man, what humans got, this is our echolocation. This is our color-changing skin. This is our, we think it's our thumbs that make us so much different, so much special. Monkeys got thumbs. This is something different. This is something special. This is, God designed us to have this special ability to communicate at a high level, which, hey, I think this is part of how we are made in the image of God. Right? This is part of how we're made in the image of God. We believe in a relational God who shares with us his love, who shares with us his thoughts, even his feelings and his values with us. And he made us so that we can do the same, so that we can share thoughts, values, everything from the depths of I love you to let's have pizza tonight, right? That is everything that goes on in our heads we can communicate with others. And yet with this incredible gift, we have caused great destruction. Hit this for me. We have caused great destruction with God's beautiful gift. We weaponize our words and we use them to tear people down, don't we? We use them to objectify people with our words. We complain about everything under the sun. We lie. We curse. We hate with our words. This is what we've done with this beautiful gift of God, this complexity He's designed us with, to share goodness and to share love and to share beauty. We have used to tear down and destroy and hate. And we know this at a deep level, don't we? It doesn't take a Christian to know that our words are meant for something higher than what we use them for. Even a non-Christian will look at someone speaking in hate and say, "You kiss your mama with that mouth?" Right? It doesn't take the preacher to say something like that or recognize the discrepancies there. We know that it is unnatural for us to be a source of both degradation and love, of cursing and blessing, of praising and tormenting. We understand that this is not how it is supposed to be. The words, we would use our words to praise a God of light and of love, but then speak to Steelers fans in a completely different way. This is not how it's meant to be. The words can teach, they can inspire. What's the first step towards salvation? We've got to hear it, don't we? Hearing comes through words. But we tear down our coworkers, we gossip about our neighbors. We're holding both of these things when they should not exist together. And that's what James says. He comes on very strong and says, we can't do this. Jeff, can you hit that for me? We cannot be both the source of good and evil words, any more than a tree cannot bear two different kinds of fruit. We must be mutually exclusive to words of godliness, to be people of our words and words of godliness. And this is hard to hear. This is hard to hear because I imagine a lot of us struggle with this. I know that I struggle with this. I struggle with this. Instead of being a complete spring of godly speech, we're like 70-30, right? Maybe 60-40. On a good day, we could be like 90-10. There are plenty of days where at the end of the day, I sit there and I think, man, I hope that 50% of my words were God-glorifying. Because some days it's about 50%, and maybe it's not even that, right? We struggle with this. I struggle with this. We're not going to be perfect, and James knows we're not going to be perfect, okay? You're not going to be 100% of the time, but we should be a people who can be identified and defined by speaking with right speech, with godly speech. Notice I don't say positive. I'm not saying positive speech, because godly speech and right speech in a broken world will not always be positive, right? Godly speech is sometimes going to be filled with lament. It's going to be mournful. Sometimes it's going to be prophetic and calling out evil in our world at an appropriate time. Godly speech is not just happy-go-lucky jibber-jabber, as sometimes people view the church as pretending it to be. No, that's not what it is. But there is a difference between what is wrong and what is right, what is godless, what is godly, what is unwholesome, and what is fruitful. A lot of people will say that actions speak louder than words. And in a lot of ways, that's true. But in a lot of ways, it's not, okay? A lot of ways, it's not true. Can you flip that for me? Actions might speak louder than words when you're getting to know someone and you're trying to see if they're being honest with you or trying to really discover their true personhood. But most of the time, your words are going to tell me more about who you are than your actions will, I think. My dad pounded this into our heads as we kids. Matthew 12:34, it was easy for a young person to memorize because you could just say 1, 2, 3, 4. Matthew 12:34, out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. Yeah, absolutely. Caleb read that for us this morning. The translation's a little different, but out of the overflow of the heart, the mouth speaks. The words that come out of your mouth, or at least in today's world, the words that come out of your keyboard too, right? That's no different. The words that come out of your mouth, the words that come out of your keyboard, it gives me a window into your heart. When you speak, when you put words out there, people see what's going on inside. Delaney and I, as young people, we're still young people, still in our 20s, right? As we're growing up and becoming adults, or older adults, we're starting to discover the true hearts of many people that we admired when we were kids because of the way they speak on Facebook. Now that we're not just teenagers anymore, the people that we admired growing up, we're seeing people in a little different light based off of how they speak on Facebook. And it's not their content. It's not that I see their theology or their political views and I disagree with it. I can handle that. It's the way they speak to people. It's the way they speak to people. And we find out that people who we thought were full of grace and love and wisdom might actually be more rooted in contention and vitriol because of what is overflowing from their heart by the words that they're saying. You experience that yourself? Your opinion of someone changes because you see that through their words, maybe they're not exactly who you thought they were on the inside. And I know that as I share that, as I point that out, a lot of us are going to be reflecting on times that we wish we hadn't said what we said, right? I still to this day can think of situations, specific situations that haunt me to this day where I said things that I wish I hadn't said things that I wish I could take back, where I wish I had taken a higher road. And I think I know all of us can share that. And James speaks to this as well. Can we flip over to James 3, 3 through 8? Yeah, this is going to be, I think, 2 different slides. When we put bits into the mouths of horses to make them obey us, we can turn the whole animal. Or take ships as an example. Although they are so large, they are driven by strong winds, they are steered by a very small rudder wherever the pilot wants them to go. Likewise, the tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. Consider what a great forest is set on fire by such a small spark. The tongue is also a fire, a world of evil among the parts of the body. It corrupts the whole body and sets the whole course of one's life on fire, and is even itself set on fire by hell. Look at that imagery. All kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, sea creatures are being tamed and have been tamed by mankind. But no human being can tame the tongue. It is a restless evil full of deadly poison. It's good stuff. I mean, we talked about some of the wiser animals. We can tame dolphins. We can tame lions. We can domesticate wild dogs. We can domesticate giant beasts of the field like bison and cattle and stuff like that. We can go to the moon. We can put all the known wisdom of the world in your pocket, can't we? We can do some pretty incredible things, but we cannot get a leash on this daggum thing, right? We can't. It is the most evasive thing. We have the hardest time clamping down on our mouths. How many lives have been burned down because people don't know when to keep their mouth shut? And right now, man, in our culture today, your words will get you in a lot more trouble than it used to. Sometimes that's justified, maybe sometimes it's not, okay? But like in our world especially, your words can shut you down really quick. The tongue has done more damage to our world than any weapon out there, right? Because it's usually the tongue that gets us to the point where we're at our weapons, isn't it? Our tongue has caused more damage in this world than almost anything else. And James does a great job illustrating this, pointing out what we think of as this small little insignificant thing, how it can just absolutely choose the paths we go down. And it really is kind of holding the steering wheel, as James says. How those words, a little word like not, can really mess up a whole Bible, And James, he doesn't shy away from this. He says it's like a spark that causes a great fire. And he even says this might be the spark that sets a fire for the whole person in hell. He doesn't shy away from it. He's not playing with how seriously he takes this. But growing up, I'm not sure the churches I was at always took our words this seriously. There was a Bible class here and there about choosing good language, but almost always it was focused on these little 4-letter words that I know was supposed to be a no-no. And, that's fine. Like that, I guess that's an important lesson too. But if we are reducing this whole topic down to a conversation to a whole conversation on cuss words, we are not doing this thing justice. If we're reducing this down to cuss words, man, we've missed much bigger things in the idea of godly speech and the weight and the power of words. If James takes it this seriously, Jeff, if James takes it this seriously, we should be talking about it to our children. We should be having intentional conversations and maybe even trainings as adults on how we speak. If a church is going to go through a marriage seminar, if it's going to go through a financial seminar, then why not give us an education on how we talk, right? If churches, we see it all the time, do financial seminars, wedding seminars, all these things. Man, the training that tongue that is so hard to tame, that should be one of the things that we spend time on. It should be a source of education that the church offers the world on godly speech. But sadly, a lot of my experience with church was quite the opposite. It wasn't just that we were lacking those intentional efforts. It was the fact that I saw a whole lot of Christians doing the opposite. It's not that they weren't being responsible with the weight of their words. Christians were slandering each other. They were tearing each other down. They were gossiping and hurting each other with their words, right there in the pews. And I know many people who no longer walk a Christian life because of the words that were spoken in those moments and in those sacred spaces. Christians, we have a hard time with this. But God forbid, and I literally mean, God forbid that we as his children would scare people away from such a good God because of the words we use. That we would not be people of destructive, harmful words, but we would be people with inviting words of love and grace and words of our God. So this morning, just real briefly, I feel like this is a good sermon for practical pieces, and so I'm going to try to offer a few practical pieces here to help us become people of godly speech so that we can be blessed and so that we can bless each other around us. It's kind of the implicit lesson here, is if we can turn to godly speech, we will bless ourselves and we will bless other people. I guess that would have been a nice little slide, but hopefully that you see that. Words will bless and destroy you, and your words will bless and destroy other people. So on. So first and most foundational is the fact that our foundational to most of our desires and problems is continued discipleship. Look, if I make any kind of practical list, that's almost always going to be the first point. Spiritual discipline, regular prayer, regular Bible study, time in Scripture, Christian community, fasting, solitude, slowing, all these different spiritual practices. You remember we did a whole series on this a few years ago. That's the key, folks. Whether it's your words, whether it's your lust, whether it's your greed, whatever obstacle you want to overcome, step one, get more disciplined. All right? These spiritual disciplines that we've spent so much time talking about in the past, these are the things that move us forward in Christian maturity. The more we practice being in the presence of God and listening to the wisdom of God and looking for God, the more Christ-like we are going to look in our lives. The more time we spend with our eyes focused on Jesus, focused on our Creator, the more like Him we are going to look. And I know that sounds simple, But I mean, how hard is it to actually get into those habits? It sounds real simple, but like how many of us are doing these regular disciplines more than just a couple of the basics? Like how many of us are observing an issue in our life or an area of growth that we want to have, and then we're trying to choose specific spiritual practices to help us grow in that? It's a hard habit to form, but it is the answer. It's so simple, but it is the answer. We have to have discipline to do it. Regular spiritual exercise leads to bigger spiritual muscles. 2 + 2 = 4, right? That's the truth. Secondly, you might have to change your environment. You might have to change your environment. And I know that's not super easy. I know there are people here who are from families where there's a lot of toxic, I'm not just meaning bad words, but just toxic speech going on at home. And it hurts you. And it can be verbally abusive sometimes. And unless you're going to abandon your parents or your kids, it's not really an option. And maybe you work in a place where there's not a lot of options for you to escape a lot of negative language. I understand that. But there are things you can change, right? Because the places you are and the language you hear on a regular basis is going to seep into you. The music you listen to, the movies you watch, the friends you hang out with, the way they talk about people. Not like, because it's so easy to go back to the words they use, like bad words, whatever. No, but like the way they talk about things, the way they view the world, the way that they speak, the amount of speech they use, that's going to slip into you. And to be honest, we got to be responsible about that. We might have to make some hard choices. But if we are struggling with this, because we can't put ourselves in a bubble, right? But if we are struggling with this, then we might need to adjust our environment a little bit to where we are being filled with things that will lead to positive, God-glorifying words and speech as well. Third, go ahead and slip down to third, stop before you speak. It sounds simple, but once again, it can be a big help. You ever get one of those texts or one of those emails that just sends you off the rail? Yeah, right? Just one of those things where you're just instantly insulted or upset or something like that, and you just want to fire back as fast as you can, and you're usually just going to escalate it. What's the best thing you can do? Yeah, HR will tell you that, right? Yeah, stop. Wait till morning. Wait a couple hours and then respond to it with a cool and leveled head. That's true for everything else in life too, Or if you're in a normal conversation and you feel tempted to share this piece of a rumor, this juicy thing that you just learned, stop for a second. Think about what you know and what you don't know, right? Think about how you're going to make someone else feel and how you're going to affect their lives. That small break can save us a whole lot of embarrassment when we're standing up there being accountable for every word we say, right? And that's an important thing here. Caleb read that for us this morning. We're accountable for every word we speak. And if the more stopping we can do, the more time we're going to save and the more embarrassment we're going to save ourselves on that day. Remember we talked about these breath prayers on the spiritual disciplines? Short little one-sentence prayers that you can offer up as quickly as you can breathe. Maybe come up with one of those to cause yourself to stop and evaluate as you speak and as you engage, to resist choosing words that are going to cause more harm than good. And then lastly, every day, share a word of thanksgiving, grace, and praise. If you're on a point where you need to grow in this topic and you know it, sometimes checklists help. I don't want people's spiritual lives to become a checklist, but if we're in a point where we need to grow, hey, this is a really good starting point. Make yourself a mental list every day and make sure that you share with someone else, out loud, through text, whatever. But you share with someone else something you are thankful for, something gracious to someone, and offer some kind of praise, whether that's to God or just to someone who's in need of encouragement. Doing that every day will eventually lead you to a point where it will become second nature, and you don't have to force it anymore. That's how you build good habits. So if you struggle with your words, if you're a bit careless with how much weight your words carry, this is a great place to start. Just a couple practical pieces to move forward with. Because as we said in the very beginning, words can change the world, right? Words can change the world. They shape our lives. And I want us to be a people whose words reflect the goodness of God's words. Hit that for me, Jeff. Whose words reflect the goodness of God's words. From his creating words in the beginning, let there be light, to his glorious words in the end, behold, I am making all things new. And of course, in the middle, his capital W word, who became flesh and died for our sins. That's the kind of people we're aiming to be with our speech. If we can help you in any way this morning, we invite you to come forward now as we stand and as we sing.